Hello and welcome developers, my name is Shay and this is another episode of Shay Develops. Today we're going to be talking about the Java scanner utility that allows us to take user input and do something with it. And we're going to be doing this within the command line today because we're going to be continuing our multidimensional array video, or at least using our the code that we wrote in the multidimensional array video to update it to take user input and use it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is tell the teacher or whoever is actually using this this grade book that we're creating what we're expecting of them, right? So like, okay, first we need to know how many students they have so we can create our array and set our array to how many indexes that it's going to have or how many inputs it's going to have already, because you know from the array video that we can't change our arrays once we create them, or at least not the size of them. We can change what's inside, but not how big they are. So okay, so how many students do you have? And then the next thing we're going to do is actually instantiate our scanner object that we're going to be using to take our input, take our data. Right? So we're going to use the scanner Java utility, and then you notice right here it already IntelliJ automatically imported it for me. But if you're not using IntelliJ, you might have to import this on your own. It's really just import java.util.scanner. So that's our data type, and then scanner. That's going to be our variable that we're going to use whenever we're calling this function later on, and it's going to be new scanner, and it takes an argument of system.in. Now if you get a little confused by this, don't worry. A lot of times you can get a lot of really good information by holding down control, this again is inside of IntelliJ, and clicking on the object that we're creating. So we'll notice here it's, hey, public scanner, it's wanting an input stream of source, which is the source is the system.in. So hopefully then you said that kind of clears things up just a little bit, but I know you might still be confused. But like I said, that can give you a little extra detail that you may not have had before, right? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create an integer value with the number of students, and we could just go equals scanner.nextInt and get already go ahead and start getting the data from the user, but we don't quite want to do that. And the reason being is just in case the user inputs, say, let's say here we put nextInt, meaning we're expecting an integer value, and if they put in like a string, it's going to crash our system. So let's go ahead and comment on all this here, and I'll show you an example of that, right? Let's go ahead and Shift F10. Run our code. Okay, so how many students do you have? Let's do 2. And see how that worked just fine. Let's go ahead and run. We're going to run it one more time. So, okay, how many students do you have? And let's put Shige. And then we're throwing a input mismatch exception, meaning that we put in a string and it was expecting an integer. So we're not going to do it this way. Instead, we're just going to set it equal to 0 for now. And then a way to get around this is by using a try catch block, right? So we're going to do try catch and then input mismatch exception and then output that exception. But we're not going to actually input a message or anything. It's just going to output the exception here. But within the try block, what we're going to try is setting number of students equal to scanner.nextInt. So that way we are getting our, and now let's go ahead and run this again, and I'll show you what happens whenever we input something wrong. So let's go ahead and input a string here again, and we get null, and it doesn't give us that error ugly message, or that ugly error message. All right, so now with our new we're taking in our new data with number of students that we take in, we can go ahead and create our string of students here. So let's go ahead and do it outside of this array block. And the reason also I said that I'm doing it outside of this try catch is because if I was to declare my variable or array or object or whatever inside the try catch block within this code block of these curly braces, I wouldn't be able to access it outside the curly braces of that code block. So that's the reason we're doing it here. So if I was to put, I'll actually show you, we can do, let's go ahead and take this, copy it, and put it in here, and just do number of students. But then I wanted to access students here, it errors out. We get a red indicator here saying that, hey, this isn't going to work out. But if I was to remove this part here and then create a string array of students, we now must just initialize it, and then we are getting, there we are, it works just fine. Alright, so let's continue to move on. So now that we have how many students we need to, and we've created our string, and we're going to now take in our student's name. So again, we need to tell the instructor what we expect from them. So here, enter student's name, and we're going to go ahead and initialize a counter. You'll see here in just a minute, and we're going to use a while loop to loop through however many students we have. So we're going to do while I is less than number of students. And if you haven't watched my video on while loops and this is a little confusing to you, you can go back and watch that, and hopefully this will clear it up just a little bit. But they're pretty simple to use. Like I said, basically we're just taking a value that will output either true or false, and then while this is true, it's going to keep working, right? So let's go ahead and do another try catch, and we just copy this catch statement right here rather than outputting or typing that all out again. But what we're going to try and do is get students I. So remember we said we created it and did all this right up here. Students I equal to scanner dot next int, and it doesn't like that. Why not? It says we require type of string, and we pass it, instead of next int, we just need to use next. There we go. And that will allow us to input a string. So let's actually do that again, and you'll see. So we have, so I use next int, but really you say we need to use next right here. And then we make sure we increment our I variable by 1. So you could have used a for loop here, if you're familiar with those, and we'll use one of those in a little bit. But for now, I said I just want to use the while loop, just using some different techniques so you guys can see while we build this, so you guys get comfortable using the different conditional, well, actually not conditional, but loops. All right, so after we've got all our students' names, let's actually go ahead and run this. We make sure that this works as intended. Right, so okay, how many students do you have? Didn't mean to run that. There you go. How many students do you have? Let's put in 3. We'll do Shay, Richard, and Timmy. And I actually don't like how that only inputted this once. So let's go ahead and move this down right here, and that'll work just the same. It'll just output enter student's name each time. Now some people may or may not like that, but I like that, so we're just gonna keep it like this. And then now we want to get our grades. So again, we're going to tell whoever's using this program, how many grades do you want to enter, and we're going to do int grade count equals 0. And then also we're going to instantiate our grades array that we're going to be using right here. So we can do int grades. Actually, we probably shouldn't even do that yet. Let's do something else first, and then we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and do our try catch. Make sure we're grabbing our catch block here. Now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get the grade count, right? So we can just do grade count equals scanner.nextInt, and that's it. Now we can get our grades, and then now we can create the multi-dimensional array of students to grades, right? So let's go ahead and we will do it within here. Actually, let's go ahead and create the multi-dimensional array here and call it grades, and we'll just leave it at that. All right, now we'll do grades equals new int. This will be our number of students, and this will be grade count. Go ahead and erase that part right there, and there we go. Everything should be working out, and we can use, I said, grades outside of our try catch block because we first initialized it here and then declare the values of it here. So now we need to actually get the grades. For that, we're going to use a for loop. So let's do for, do a little shorthand there, right? And then how many times do we want to run through this first for loop? Well, we want to run through it for as many students as we have. So what we could do here is we could do number of students, or we could also do students.length, and then we can do a little output here. It says enter grades for students J, and make sure you put a J here and not like an I, or well, not necessarily a J, but whatever your counter value is that you've initialized here. Otherwise, you'll get an error saying, "Oh, we don't know what index that is," and it'll crash out. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're telling the instructor, whoever it is, what we're expected from them. Now we need to get the data from them. So we'll do another for loop, and this time we'll go through the grades. This will be j.length. Oh, it doesn't like that initialize variable grades. So up here we didn't actually initialize it, we just declared it. Let's go ahead and initialize that, which is a new int set in 0, and then we actually fully initialize it there. Okay. So everything should be working as intended. We're going to wait and run this again until we finish inputting our code here. So we're going to do grades J, because we're going to be talking about what that indicates what student we're on, and then what grade what the index of the grade that we're putting in is going to be K. That's going to equal to scanner.nextInt, because we're not doing like I said, floats or anything like that. They're going to be full whole numbers. And actually, if you notice there's an issue with this, we need to also put this within a try catch. Went too far. There we go. Let's do Control X to copy that, and then make sure we grab our catch statement here. Oh. There we go. And then get rid of this extra little bit right there. Alright, so that should actually work as intended. We should be able to input our students and then input our grades, and then from there we're going to move on. We're going to get the averages, and we're going to actually input a little bit of search functionality to get back a student and their grades. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this though, test it, make sure everything's working fine. We want to. So, okay, how many students do you have? I'm just going to put 2 for right now. I'll do Shay and Timmy. How many grades do you want to enter? I'll do 5. So 98, 56, 78, 59, and 72. Right? Okay. End of the grades for Timmy. Do 65, 78, 89, 76, and 43. And that's it. Everything's working as we expected. All right, and so now we still have our get averages here, right? And we could continue with that, but let's make this a little bit more involved. Let's create a menu, and then in the menu, we're going to allow the user to input what we would like for them to do within that menu. All right, so let's go ahead and create our menu function. So we do public static void print menu. And this is just to print the menu, so we don't actually need anything. So it's not going to, or we don't actually need it to return anything. So it's going to be a value of void, and we don't need to put any of our data in here that we're going to be getting as far as like what the user selected for their menu option. That's going to be done somewhere else. So let's go ahead and output some menu items to the screen. We select an option, and we're going to do a /n to go down to a new line. We'll do plus, and then we're going to put 1 get students grades by name. Going to be 2 get students grades by index, and we're going to code up both of these ways so you can see how we might do either one, right? And then 3 get averages and then 4 is quit. Alright, so that's super simple. We're just going to just print a menu, and we're going to print it after the user has already inputted all of their student data. So, and then we can actually go ahead and create the first little bit and use our switch statement to get our averages. Right, so let's go ahead and after the print menu, let's go ahead and create our switch statement. Actually, we're going to do a while loop, and we do while running, and we're going to create our boolean running equals true. And then when we go into, if we quit, we'll just set running to false, and it'll quit out of the program. So while running, we're going to do a switch statement. If you haven't seen my video on switch, again, I was getting a little bit redundant. You can go back and watch that in one of my previous videos. We're going to do our input, which we haven't accepted yet. We're going to do switch, and then what case we're going to do. So we can do case 0. This will be search for user by name. New case 1. This will be search for user by index. Case 2. Print averages. And right here we can actually just do get averages and then pass it what it's expecting. So the first thing it's expecting is our students array, so we pass students, and the next thing is our grades. We just pass grades. And then break there, and then on case 3, oh, I actually messed that up a little bit. Oh, easy to fix. 1, 2, 3, And then case 4, we'll set running equal to false and break. And then we would do a default here, but that's not going to be necessary. And then after we do everything, we want to print the menu again. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our functionality to get the students by name. Actually, no, first thing we're going to do is get the input from the teacher, or from the instructor. So we'll do just going to get our menu option here. Sorry about that. All right, so let's do try, and we'll actually get our int menu. What do I call it? Input. We'll just call it input. We'll set it equal to 0 for right now, and we'll do input equals scanner dot next int. And then make sure we have our catch block right after that. And then, all right, this should work actually just fine. Let's go ahead and test it out and see if we can make sure we can still get the averages that we wrote in our multidimensional array, after I just break it, in our multidimensional array video. So Shift F10. Make this a little bigger. Okay, how many students do you have? We have 2, Shay and Timmy. They're 5 grades each. Ooh, we got 12. Dang, that's terrible. Alright, so now we're at our ability to select an option. Well, what do we want to do? Oh, so far the only thing we really have set up is we can quit or we can get the averages. So let's go ahead and get the averages first. Oh, we got ourselves an issue here. Alright, so let's go ahead and stop this. Now I wonder what might be causing this issue to sit there and just run through the data over and over and over again. It's basically we need to get our user input again, because our switch, the input value, isn't changing, and as it breaks, it goes back and reruns this while loop again, and then it's a never-ending cycle of the same input value because we're only getting it here, and so therefore it's never changing. So we actually need to print menu and then get the user input. Now doing it like this, it actually might be a good idea to write this in a method instead, but for now we're just going to leave it here because it's not that much extra code. And then we'll actually need to put it here as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on. So we see we are actually getting the average. Wow, somehow both the average is 73. That's impressive that I did it like that. Matter of fact, that makes me just want to try that again to make sure that's not an error of some sort. Alright, so how many students you have? 2, Shay, Timmy. How many grades you want to enter? 5. Let's do 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. And then we'll do 90, 90, 90, 90, and 90. And then what we're going to do, get averages. And yeah, there we go. So that's working as intended. So I actually literally just did that on accident, so they got the same average. All right, so we got Shay's average is 100 and Timmy's average is 90. All right, so let's go ahead and now implement, or actually, let's go ahead and quit this. So we'll do for quit, and then boom, process finished with exit code 0, meaning everything worked out fine, and it quit the program. Matter of fact, we could just put a little output here saying quitting program. Alright, now let's do the rest of it. Yeah, you see how this kind of doesn't like this is because this and this is all the same so far. There's no difference, so it's like, oh, you could combine these, but it's about to be different. All right, so let's go ahead and create our methods, though, that will allow us to search for our student and get the averages, or not get their averages, but get the grades based off of the student's name that we input, right? So let's go ahead and create another method, be public static void, because we're not going to be returning anything. It's just going to be outputting information to the user. So get student grades by name, and we're going to pass it a string of students that I can sort through. And integer, we're going to pass them the grades that will be outputted, and then the name of the student that we're looking for. So we're going to do it basically the same way as whenever we were inputting the grades, as far as like looping through the students. So we can do for I, and we'll do, this will be students.length, and then if we're going to make sure we're searching to make sure that the name that was inputted is actually part of the string here, or part of in the actual group or the array of students that we have. So if students index of I dot equals name, and this is going to pass us a true or false value, because whenever we run the equals method on a string, it will, like I say, input a true or false, and that's what it's looking for in an if statement. So if this passes, so let's go ahead and do an else first, so you can see that. Else, just output student not found. All right, so if this passes, we're going to output their grades. So for J, and then we're going to do grades and the I, and then this will be like, okay, so if we're talking about the student with the index of 0, we're just going to make sure that we stay on that student with the index of 0. J dot length here. Okay. And then now we're just going to output grades I J, and then do like a tab. So like the slash in will do a new line, like you see right here. The slash T will just do a tab over, so we're not shoving all the grades right one on top of each other. And then we're going to do, because I've already written this before, I know that we're going to have an issue as far as like with stuff not stacking, or with stuff stacking on top of each other. So, and then we want to break out of it once we get the correct student that we want and then put it out. And there we go. And that is our get students by name. So if you want to go ahead and finish that, let's go ahead and come up here. And I'm actually going to get rid of these for now. Don't need them anymore. Right, so we're going to get search for user by name. I guess we're going to like search for student by name, but that's fine. So we s out enter name of student to get grades, and then we're going to need a string of student. We'll set that equal to an empty string for now, because we again need our try and catch. So we're going to do student equals scanner.next, because that's next will expect a string, and then that will give us the student that we want to, and then we're going to now pass it to our array, which is get student averages by name. So we're going to pass it the students, pass it the grades, and then pass it the name of the student that we're looking for. So student. And that should work just fine. So before we test that, let's go ahead and do the other method, which is get students' grades by index. So again, public static void get student grades by index, and we're going to pass it basically the same thing. Students, our grades, and we're going to pass it an integer value of index. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is go through the students again. So before another for loop, students.length. Hopefully you guys are getting familiar with this for loop again. And so if you're not, go back, watch the for loop video. So we'll do if I, meaning make sure that we have the index that is associated with a student. I'm going to do else student not found. All right, yeah. So basically here, if you're not familiar with this, we're going to sort through the students, and if I and index ever match, that means the student with that index is going to is there, and we can output that student's grades. So we'll just need to do another output. Says grades for students I, and then do another for loop. I like to do that for I there so I have less typing to do. Alright, so we're going to do, that's going to be grades I dot length, just like on the other one. And now we're just going to output the student's grades. And there we go. That should be all that we're going to need for the get student grades by index. And if we come up here, we can actually just copy that. Instead of string student, we can do int index equals 0. Change this to index, and we're going to be looking for an integer value, so make sure we change that to next int. Enter index of student to get the grades, and then we need to call it. So it's going to be get student grades by index. We're going to pass it students, grades, and of course the index. Alright, so some of y'all may be a bit further along as far as writing in Java, and you may know of a certain thing called overloading, which you're like, these two functions right here could possibly be overloaded based off of the parameters that we pass it. And you're absolutely right. We could actually change this from get grades by index and get grades by name and just get student grades, and based off of the value that we pass it, it'll work. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Let's go ahead and run this and make sure our code is working as intended. Let's go ahead and run. And that'll actually be the last thing to show you, and we will be done with this video. I know it's been quite a long one already over 30 minutes. So how many students do we have? Let's do 2 Shay, Timmy, how many grades you want to enter? 98, 78, 98, 65, 78 again. All right, that's good. We'll do 89, 100, 56, 79, 85, 0.85. Uh-oh. It did not like that, so we got a little error there. Let's go ahead and, because we inputted a float value there. But I wonder if things would still, how things will still work. Nope, not working at all. All right, so let's go ahead and stop this, try again. My mistake on that one. All right, let's do it again. How many students do you have? 2. Shay, Timmy. How many grades do you want to enter? 5. All right, so now we've entered in our students and our grades. Let's go ahead and test this. So we want to get students' grades by name. So we're going to input option 1, enter the name of the student to get the grades. Let's get Timmy's grades. Put in Timmy. Nope. Well, it says student not found, but obviously Timmy was found, and it outputted those grades. So we have a little bit of an error, which we'll go back and fix here in a minute. But it outputted 100, 65, 45, 89, and 87. So let's go ahead and look at Timmy's grades. 100, 65, 45, 89, and 87. So those are looking good. So let's do student grades by index. Enter the index of the student. So our answer is either going to be 0 or 1 here, because that's how many students we have. So let's go ahead and do 0 this time to get the students of Shay. And then again, we have student not found, which is not what we were expecting. And all these grades are outputted on multiple lines, which I don't like that either. And that's easy fix though. All right, so we got 78, 45, 98, 75, and 95. So if we go back up here, 78, 45, 98, 75, and 95. That all looks like that's working properly. All right, so the next thing we want to do is make sure our get average is working as well. And what it is, 78 and 77. Dang, I'm pretty good at getting these numbers pretty close, and make sure we quit. All right, so the one thing I wanted to tell you about was overloading, but let's fix a couple little minor bugs here. So they're outputting all on multiple lines, which I don't like. So what we're going to do here is, instead of print line, we're just going to do print. Okay, that takes care of that issue. And then now the fact that it's getting the student not found, that is because while this is running, if say, yeah, we're not breaking out of it once we find the student. So once we find the student and we run through all this for loops, we need to break out of these loops. Now we haven't really talked about breaks, but we will at a later date. And make sure we put this here as well. All right, actually, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this else statement, because we don't need it. So instead, if we never find anything and we don't break out, we'll just put student not found here down in the bottom, and that should take care of that issue there. All right, now before we test this to see if this works, let's go talk about overloading real quick. Now I'm going to make a video on overloading on its own, so if you want to wait for that one, you totally can. But really, overloading is the Java allows us to create methods that have the exact same name and can take on different parameters, and then we can then run whichever method based off of the parameters that we pass it. As long as the, and I'm forgetting the name here, but as long as the method definition, I'm just going to use that, I know that's not the correct word, but as long as the methods have method signature is different, then they will work just fine. So let's get rid of by name here and by index here. And because we're passing a string and because we're passing an index, these two method signatures are different. So it'll allow us to come up here and remove this. And allow both of these methods with the same name, get student grades and get student grades, to run independently of each other based off of the parameters that they take. So you say, really the only difference is this one takes an integer and this one takes a string. Now there's a bit more to it than this, but that's the basics of overloading. So let's go ahead and run this one more time to make sure all of our stuff is working exactly as we want it, and then we will be done. Yeah, congratulations though if you've watched it this far. So how many students we have? We have 2 students, Shay and Timmy. How many grades we want to enter? 5, 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, and then grades for Timmy we'll do 56, 89, 74, 98, and 65. Alright, so we're going to do get grades by name. Enter the name of the student, Shay. Oh, it's still doing student not found, but it's outputting all our grades on one line. Alright, let's go ahead and do get students grades by index. Let's do an index of 1, so this gets Timmy's grades. Grades for Timmy, 56, 89, 74, 98, 65. Again, student not found. And if you guys want to, I'm not going to do it in this video, but if you guys want to, you can go through and fix that and see what's going on with that problem right there. Let's go ahead and get our averages. Boom, got our averages, and then quit. Alright guys, that is the end of the video. I know that was a lot. It's over 40 minutes, so hopefully you guys learned something. I really appreciate you watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you're trying to learn. Tell me, you know, how good a job I'm doing, how bad a job I'm doing, what I could do to improve, what I'm doing well on. And I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully a lot sooner than this one. Sorry it took me so long to output this. I had a hard drive issue with my computer. Got that fixed, so I should be back and on board and going strong. All right, you guys are awesome. Take care. Peace.